Hi, I'm Cy Wakeman. I'm the author of No Ego. I'm also the host of this show, Life's Messy, Live Happy. Today, our topic is excuses. I get so many questions from leaders asking me, how do I lead my team beyond their excuses? Many folks find themselves in really challenging circumstances, and I get it. There's not enough time. Things are ambiguous. Other people sometimes don't do their fair share. But the question I get is, how do I still get my team to produce great results, stay highly engaged, in spite of challenging circumstances? Here at Reality-Based Leadership, we talk a lot about the fact that your circumstances aren't the reasons you can't succeed. They're actually just the reality in which you must succeed. So stick around. I'm going to answer the question, how do you lead beyond all the excuses? Found as a leader, at the end of the day, you end up with one of two things in life. You either end up with results, sometimes learning, which is just future results, or reasons, stories, and excuses about why we didn't get there, why we didn't get the results we wanted. Now, here's the crazy thing about reasons, stories, or excuses. Most of the time, they're based in truth. People don't have to make this stuff up. It's true that we don't have all the time or money that we want. It's true that there are times that priorities change or expectations are unclear. As a leader, I want you to go beyond that truth to produce results anyway. I want you to realize the sophisticated tricks your ego plays on you, where it gets you believing that time's the issue or that the job's the issue. And I want you to move beyond that and really focus on how you can see that circumstance differently. Then I want you to get really good at calling people up to greatness in spite of their circumstances. So when someone comes to me and says, Cy, I'm just so busy, I didn't get to that. As a leader, I want to respond with, given that you're busy, what's your plan to deliver? Cy, I've just had a really hard day. Given that you're having a hard day, what's your plan to make sure you get the results that you need? Cy, priorities keep changing. Given our reality of changing priorities, what are you going to do to adapt your approach to make sure you deliver? I hope you hear this trick I'm using. Whatever excuse somebody brings up, I want you to take that excuse and frame it with, given that this is our reality, and then put the responsibility back on them. What's your plan to deliver anyway? This leads people out of ego and that narrow focus of how I'm a victim and why I can't, into self-reflection, the ultimate drama diffuser that focuses on how we could. See, a leader's role is not necessarily inspiring people or motivating people in challenging circumstances. A leader's role is managing energy. See, you manage energy, not people. And the energy you need to manage is away from why we can't or why we shouldn't have to, into how we could. It's taking all of that mindset out of ego and venting and victimhood and getting you into a better part of your brain, which is all about expansive thinking and innovation and collaboration and possibility. And that's really what I want to see you doing, is managing energy. So first, your mindset. Secondly, using this trick, given that, will really change the thinking of your team. One of the things I love about prepping for this show is going through all the questions from all the viewers. There are so many great questions. I can't get to all of them, but one thing I picked up on, which was actually the inspiration for this show, was how to deal with excuses when people are resistant to succeeding and they're citing a litany of reasons why they can't. So this one comes from Darren S. And he says, Cy, something has happened on my team. All of a sudden, people are pretty sure that anything I ask them to do is impossible. Even the smallest ask gets met with resistance. How do I lead in the face of all of these excuses? Darren has really stumbled upon a key role of a leader. Your role is not necessarily to inspire or motivate people in challenging times. In fact, it's not even possible. Your role is to manage the energy of your people, and managing that energy away from why we can't and why we shouldn't have to how we could. So Darren, I don't know what excuses you're hearing in the workplace specifically, you didn't mention those, but there are this set of excuses that I actually call emotional blackmail. It's attempts of the ego to blackmail you, to make you back down from what your request is and feel as though it's unreasonable. Here are some of the things I've run into as a leader. I'll share with somebody some feedback and they'll say things like, you know what, no one's ever talked to me about this before. And I'll simply say, that's okay, no worries. Now that you're clear on what I'm asking, I am convinced that then you'll do it differently. Sai, this is totally different than how we've done it in the past. And I might respond with, I'm so glad you see clearly the differences, and now that you're clear, I expect you to do it exactly as we've talked about going forward. Some people try and cop out of quickly changing times by saying, you know what, even if we did this today, it will totally change tomorrow. And I would say, you know what, I would count on that. I would count on things changing. We have whole teams looking at how things might change going forward. And a classic is, Sai, we tried this back in '97 and it didn't work. We've already done this. And I would say, oh my gosh, I'm so thrilled that you were here then. You have a special responsibility because of your knowledge of why it didn't work to use that and really ensure that it will work today. I count on you to really risk mitigate. So Darren, I hope that that helps when your team comes up with excuses. Just agree with the fact that it could be true, and then hold your standard high and ask them to meet it anyway. Today, I'm talking with Chris Lapala. He does business development for Dell Technologies, but more important than that, Chris and I have worked together, 13 years, yep. 3 or 4 different companies, yep. And it's been a wild ride. I'm bringing Chris on because, Chris, you get stuff done. And
yeah,
and
titled that.
That's
yeah.
your title.
Yeah.
And I just love your approach to leadership. So how would you sum it up? So if you had to do a quick commercial for yourself for our viewers and listeners, how would you describe
if I had to sum it up, I'd say this. Number one, it is so easy to give reasons why things can't be done.
Yeah.
Probably my biggest pet peeve. Everybody give you what's wrong with America today, but nobody will tell you how to fix it. Yeah. And you know what, if I can tell a brief story.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I met Sai and I was working downtown at a company, and she introduced me to this concept, right? Or you introduced me to this concept of I play favorites. And so I was managing an online group of people doing online banking and things like that. And there was this kid. I mean, when I say kid, he was probably in his mid-20s. Energetic, bright. His name was Matt. Loved him. Everything I asked Matt to do, he was like, yeah, you bet. You bet. Everybody else, right? I don't know if we can do that. I don't know if we can do. Seems hard.
Might not have time.
So I got invited to some swanky golf event, right? And they said, well, you can bring a guest. And I said, yeah, I'm going to bring Matt. And they're like, well, what's Matt's title? And I said, well, he's a developer. Yeah, you need to be a VP or above. And I said, well, then I'm not coming. And so they let Matt go. And so fast forward about a week, and I'm sitting there in my staff meeting, and I let my direct reports convince me that it would be more impactful for the group if they could have their direct report. We'd all feel more connected. And I said, okay.
At the meeting, if everybody could bring everybody.
Oh yeah, that way they could really get, my feedback, my views on things. And so we're waiting for the meeting to start, and this guy walks in. I remember it like it was yesterday, and he says, so you got golf for the rest of us or just Matt? And I said, oh, just Matt, because he's one of my favorites. And you know what my favorite people do? They're change agents, can-do attitude, and they don't pull crap like you just pulled. So let's get started.
And that's why I love Chris. Because I do say, I'm like, people accuse us of playing favorites. They're like, Sai, you play favorites. I'm like, yes, I do. Do you want to be one? I love that.
Yeah.
Nope, we have golf just for Matt.
Yeah, and so I would say, yeah, my approach to things is I've always been very focused on the outcome instead of the process, how to get there.
I preach that all the time. If you're at a higher level of consciousness and you're using some of this reality-based leadership stuff we're teaching you, then it becomes effortless. It's not that hard. So much of the work we think we have to do as leaders, we create ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, I've got to fight the current. I've got to steer this boat.
Right.
Instead of like, let me just get me in the right position and then watch this thing go, like using the natural energy of it. What are some of the typical excuses you hear? So you've spent most of your career in IT, you've been a CIO, you've been in business, you've been on the sales side, you've been on the ops side, you've been on the architect side, like you've done big stuff.
Right.
And big projects, not a lot of like, slack on when you can get stuff done or delivered. And it's always been IT, like banking or construction, where you can't have systems out. Like you've got to have systems out or money, you know, down the tubes.
Right.
So what are some of the typical excuses? And then what would you, besides just pounding on people, like how do you get people beyond those excuses?
Right.
So what are the typical ones?
Because by the way, pounding on people doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work.
It's and I love baseball, right? And baseball is such an analogy for me to how life works, right? And it's coaching 13-year-old kids. You can't pound them. You got to let them find their own way. So back to your question about what are some of the excuses? Well, time and money.
Time and money is always
I love the money one. Well, that's too expensive. I'm like, how do you know? Did you ask? Well, we don't have the money for that. Did you keep the checkbook? How do you know?
How do you know?
Right? It's always, they'll never go for that. Did you ask? Right? You know,
or better yet, did you put together a business case and really use some business discipline thinking to make your case?
Right. I'll tell you what, I would say one of the most constructive exercises that you can go through in business to try to make a presentation to somebody is the whole doing a dry run and having somebody sit there and be the devil's advocate or role play the person that you're going to present it to and shoot holes in this, because it really helps you build and craft the correct
and overcome those objectives.
Absolutely. You know, and people who work for you take that hard too. You know, it's delicate how you craft that message with them, that I care about you and that's why I'm pushing you to try to make you better.
That is the delicate, because a lot of times people know you care about them when you push them, but you can't push them after a slam or a shame. It can't be from your ego to their ego where you're like, you stink and need to be better. It's like, I care about you, and so I'm going to call you up and help you understand you're capable of so much more than this.
You know, it's funny. So it's I keep forgetting one of my favorite lessons that I learned from you is giving feedback. Here's what's working. Here's what's not working yet, and here's what's possible.
You know, when you get down to excuses, what I have found is that excuses are the fog around lack of accountability.
Yeah.
And when you really work with people and they have an excuse and you start to say, wait a minute, what have you tried and who have you talked to and what data have you pulled and how have you applied business thinking to this problem? What happens is those excuses almost just dissolve. They can't be held up like in the light of day.
Right, exactly. Once you have the data, it's the whole reality-based living, right? Yeah,
once you edit the story.
What do you know to be factual?
For sure. I'm going to end with, you remind me of Lou Holtz. Have you ever seen his 100 years ago when Lou was a motivational speaker? Okay. Now he's kind of a poor sports announcer.
I was going to say, which Lou are we talking
which Lou? We're talking about the Lou
the one that slobbers and drools?
Not the one that slobbers and drools, the one in his prime. I love Lou Holtz. But he used to go out and give this talk, and he's like, people want to, you have to answer 3 questions for people. They have to know, do you care about me? And that has to be a yes. And they have to know, can I trust you? Mm-hmm. And then, are you committed to excellence? And those 3 questions, if you guys haven't done it, go search YouTube and find Lou Holtz in this prime. His talk was amazing. And 30 years later, I remember Lou Holtz's questions. When I meet people, I want them to know I care about them, that they can trust me, I am consistent, and I'm transparent, and that I care about excellence. I'm not going to go easy on them. And I think if you got those 3 things, and so that's the assignment for people that have joined us today, is just answer these questions. Thanks again for coming in and sharing your success. It's been awesome to see you and how your career has been just amazing. So
thank you, Si.
Thanks. You made it through the video. That's a good indication you're loving my stuff. That means that you should subscribe and you should start binge watching all the other episodes right now.